Did you know that flumps are lawful good, so you can always trust them? Did you know that trolls can regenerate, making for super dramatic encounters? But they don't like fire or acid. Spoiler alert, and both of these instances took out the mystique and fun of the game for both newbies and veteran players, and what spoilt them was the knowledge that your character just wouldn't know. Metagaming. Hey everyone, welcome to Dungeon Bits, and today we're talking about metagaming, a concept that bridges tabletop and video games. Metagaming, in brief, is making decisions in a role-playing game based on knowledge that you know, but your character, whom you're role-playing as, doesn't. It's an issue that, like many in this hobby, it causes a lot of back and forth. Except, I think this one has a more concrete answer that most people will agree with, and that is, don't metagame in a negative way. But what's considered negative? Well, let's talk about it. Because if I say don't use it negatively, that must mean you can use it positively, right? Absolutely. For example, you might know something about the game that you can actually use to improve fun by knowing when you should step away to let another player discover it. I played in like 5 sessions of a campaign in a group with some newbies to the hobby, and we encountered a troll, and I knew about its regeneration rules, but I was playing an artificer with my only damaging spell being Firebolt, so I just decided I'll cast Cure Wounds and let the newbie sorcerer fight it instead. They casted Firebolt, the DM described the effect on its regeneration ability, and I, in character, congratulated them on their quick thinking, arcane prowess, and nice hair, and the player felt super useful. Similar things might happen if you're playing a module like Curse of Strahd multiple times. I've known people say they've played through it 3 times with 3 different groups, and they've had to keep their metagaming to a minimum. Because that's the thing about metagaming. When you know something, it can be hard to proceed like you don't, especially when the choice to not metagame would be good sportsmanship, but a massive detriment to your character. For example, you rolled a 5 when rolling your stats, and you thought, I'm gonna put it in intelligence and play a stereotypical, super funny, dumb barbarian. You usually play things like high intellect wizards, however, to match your wargamey tactics in combat, but you thought, this'll feel like a fresh experience? And then, you come across the lair of the Countess of Varask, who's been causing trouble in the area, and when you enter her chambers, you hear a seductively beautiful voice butter you up with compliments and say, "Let me look at your face," as you hear a faint hissing. The DM also describes some very lifelike statues in the room with you, all having faces of fear. So, does Grunkle the Bucket Boy turn around to see the form of the beautiful voice? Even though, you know, the player, it's a Medusi. I've encountered so many veteran players who are super smart in real life. They play combat super tactically, and fall for no tricks when it comes to traps because they're always super careful when it comes to dungeons. But then, they switch up being a wizard or a tactician and play a character that is super dumb. And then I watch them die inside as they realise what they've done, a battle raging in their own mind over whether their stupid character would be dumb enough to do something incredibly dumb. Metagaming is basically about sportsmanship, about cheating yourself and others, because there are times when metagaming is unavoidable, like the knowledge of how many hit points you have, or the knowledge of stats to a numerical degree rather than just a guesstimation. So when does metagaming get actually bad? Well, anytime you metagame to rob other people of an opportunity is not a great start. Sometimes, players just want to play and discover naturally. So if you're breathing down their neck, commenting on the unoptimized tactical plays they're making in combat, it's just super annoying and ruining their chance to have a new experience, even if it's failure. Then there's the example I mentioned before. When you know something about an enemy, and you ruin the surprise that the players get to experience, and the DM gets to excitedly deploy, it just ruins it. Like, oh thanks, I love my surprises being ruined. Whether it's alignment, armor classes, infamous powers, or stats used by monsters, when you metagame, you can very easily just ruin the role-playing aspect of the role-playing game for others and yourself. And metagaming can get exceptionally frustrating when it's used to mess with the players or even battle them to try to best them. Like, if one player says they're going to do something in private to achieve some end, and another player who's at the table sees this and acts with the knowledge that their character wouldn't know, just to mess with them, just to beat them. It's time to win! This commonly happens in minor cases, when characters split up in town, and while one person is in one store, another player will want to get in on that scene to reap the benefits of being there when they were over there, so I guess they can teleport and be in every scene if they want to. And if you've GM'd at least once, you know what I mean. But also, just another thing for the GMs. Have you ever had a player try to metagame you? Like, not the other player's actions or a monster's characteristics, but your actual Brian. This typically comes in two flavours. One of them is having an idea, but not wanting to say it because the GM might hear them. And look, I get it. They've probably played with GMs, or they themselves are secretly people who would gladly metagame and use the plans of players against them, as if the world is always listening to the players' plans and immediately acting upon them. And the other flavour is when the players consider that you, the GM, are a person who likes things like order and symmetry and aren't perfectly the same as a chaotic and wild world. So, because of this, they'll say things like, the GM wouldn't put a room full of enemies or traps in the room right after a combat encounter, right? Think again, pal. Or, when they try to metagame the adventure itself, like, hey guys, if we just keep playing, then the answer to the mystery we're trying to solve will eventually just fall in our laps. Or, the magic item we want will eventually just come to us one way or another. You might be waiting a while then. But there's another angle to this. Like here's a scenario. What if everyone, from the players to the GM, is a veteran tabletop player, and the GM throws a monster at you that has like an infamous weakness? Are you just supposed to pretend at each other and play along, even though you know that trolls don't like fire? Well, I mean, who does? But, you know. You see what I mean? To play itself is to blend the line between looking at your character sheet and seeing a bunch of numbers and dice, needing to not only make choices based on the information we are learning about, but the info we already know, and the fact that we're all sat next to each other, even if it's assumed that your characters are not. And this is why there are so many discussions online as to what is and what is not metagaming. I've had a player pull up the monster stat block for a monster they were currently fighting, to which I was like, what are you doing? Meanwhile, there are some that think that that's absolutely fine, because you can look up as many stats as you like, but the dice don't care about what you've seen in the book. In a game where we're trying to get into the minds of our characters and let our imaginations build a story, having one dude pull back the veil and show the man behind the curtain can really ruin the experience. So, in brief, don't metagame to get one over on other people or to try to beat them, or to take away the enjoyment of discovery. Don't be a dick. Thank you for watching. I'm Ellis, and if you like this video, click the one on screen to see one of the most metagamed concepts in D&D. Alignment. I love you all, and I'll see you next Saturday.